Welcome back to Building and Breaking, where we talk about how brands are built, trust is broken, and what salon owners, hairstylists, and pro beauty brands can learn. I'm your host, Nina Kovner, and today we are celebrating a milestone together. This is our 10th episode. 10th episode. I always talk with our clients and community how important it is to celebrate every step because with the pressures of the outside world, social media, all of that, there is this kind of feeling that can come up where it's like, we're not doing enough. Look at what everyone else is doing, all that comparison shit. So, this is your reminder to celebrate every step. And this is actually episode 10. I'm really like, honestly, like, I'm not just like saying this. I am celebrating this. And the reason I'm celebrating this, like the top reason I'm celebrating this is that if you followed the podcast over the years before it was repositioned and rebranded, you know that the last few years I've struggled with consistency in podcasting, and it has never sat well with me because I talk so often about how important consistency is. And it is a brand promise, both of my company, Passion Squared, and of myself, to show up as promised. And, even on the hard days, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Sometimes life gets in the way. And I have shared a few times how life so got in the way for me the last few years. So, to be able to be consistent, to be able to show up and to celebrate this milestone is a big fucking deal. And I'm proud of myself, and I'm also proud of you for every milestone, every single one, every step that you take. So the first 9 episodes, we've talked about Costco, Starbucks, In and Out, Taylor Swift, Aveda, Olaplex, Drybar, Trader Joe's, and Target. And this week, episode 10, I am going to do a recap of some of the most important lessons that all of these deep dives share. And I'd like to give a special shout out to someone I know you all know, Gordon Miller, who made this suggestion and said, you know what, you should do a recap. And I'm like, you know what, Gordon, that's a great fucking idea. So thank you, Gordon. So when we look at these 9 different brands, Costco, Starbucks, In and Out, Taylor Swift, Aveda, Olaplex, Drybar, Trader Joe's, and Target, they're totally different brands, but the fundamentals that built them or that fractured them, they're the same. And they're the same fundamentals and lessons that matter whether you're running a global beauty brand, you're an employment based salon, a lease based salon, you're an employee of a salon, or you're an independent stylist. So, we're going to be talking about the big lessons and what they mean for you. So, not so ironically, the first one is consistency builds trust. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. I know. Consistency builds trust. And I share often with our clients and community when we're looking at the fundamentals of building a salon business, it's any business. Again, the fundamentals are universal. Salons are not unique, neither are pro beauty brands or the dry cleaner down the street or the co-working space that I am sitting in recording this episode. The fundamentals remain the same. And that's one of the reasons I won't shut the fuck up about them. I truly believe if our industry embraced the fundamentals, that we would minimize or in some cases eliminate the systemic dysfunction I have seen for the last 4 decades in our industry when it comes to business. So, consistency builds trust. Trust builds relationships. Relationships build referrals. Referrals are retained when you deliver a consistent and aligned with your brand experience. And those retained referrals build revenue. It is simple, yet not always easy, particularly when you don't have clarity around your brand story, which is your GPS, your North Star, your compass, your whatever the fuck you want to call it. And I know that for some folks, especially creatives, consistency is looked at as boring. Like, I don't want to do the same thing every day. But It's not doing the same thing every day. Consistency is about staying aligned with your brand promise. It's how brands build higher lifetime customer and client value, which, as a reminder, is the amount of happiness, joy, referrals, and revenue your customers or clients bring you over the lifetime of your relationship. So, when we look back at some of these episodes, In and Out, we talked about their consistency. In and Out is like consistency queen, right? And it has allowed them to build that high lifetime customer value. Costco's $1.50 hot dog and a drink. It's not the snack and it's not the pricing. It's not the profitability because you already know that is what's called in the retail world a loss leader, like the rotisserie chicken, meaning they're not making money on it, but they're making so much value back on it. It's part of their brand promise. It's not about the fucking hot dog. I mean, we talked about Aveda and how they took product and turned them into rituals that created experiences and high lifetime customer value. It was that consistency, both the salons, what the salons could expect, and the clients. I mean, Starbucks, we talked a lot in the Starbucks episode about every time they lose focus, the sales go down, right? So they lose customers when the experience is inconsistent. And, consistency is what turns clients into, you know, the biggest cheerleaders. And again, deeper loyalty and higher lifetime client and customer value. Consistency builds trust. And consistency first starts with clarity of brand story, of course, and then designing the experience you deliver. And again, whether you're a pro beauty brand or a hairstylist or salon owner, systems allow you to stay consistent. Systems allow you to stay consistent. You could talk about a consultation system, right? I think I shared this on one of the episodes. I was having a conversation with a client and we had mapped out the whole awesome client journey, which is what I call it, but customer journey, client journey, whatever you want to call it. And we were really honing in on the actual in salon because we do pre-visit, visit, post-visit, and done that for since I started Passion Squared, because of so much of the pre-visit is happening digitally and social and etc. Anyways, I digress. We are talking about the consultation, and they are actually building a consultation system. They didn't have one, and of course, a consultation system includes questions. And I recommended that they have the questions written down and use like an iPad, like intake, like the doctors. And, we ask questions, we listen, we take notes. And they asked, well, doesn't that seem weird? And I'm like, no, what's worse is if you don't ask the questions consistently. That's what's worse. Clients want to be heard. All customers want to be heard, by the way. So yeah, consistency builds trust. That was a theme we have talked about in every single episode. Clarity. Clarity is your compass, right? When you're clear on your brand story, brand purpose, what problems you're solving, brand promise, how you solve those problems, brand people, who you're solving problems for, and brand products and services, what solutions do you create to help solve the problems of your people? When you're clear on that, everything is going to be simpler, not easy. Notice I'm not saying easy because none of this shit is easy. There's nothing easy. Well, life's not easy, right? But neither is business. So, however, it's less difficult when we have clarity. And in my experience, again, going back to how I truly believe clarity brand story could minimize or eliminate systemic dysfunction in our industry is because there is a lack of clarity. And then, when I've seen people talk about brand inside our industry, this is on the salon side. They're talking about brand identity. They're talking about aesthetic. They're like talking about, an Instagram grid. That's not your fucking brand. That's your brand identity. Logos, fonts, colors, aesthetic, blah, blah, blah. Your brand story comes first because the brand identity is designed to help tell the story of the brand, not the other way around. So Costco. Costco's a great example of being so clear on what their members value, right? And in everything that they do. in everything that they do. Trader Joe's knows exactly who they are, how they are, who they serve. And they don't want to become Whole Foods. And they don't need to. And you also don't need to do what everyone else is doing. I mean, In and Out, super focused menu. Um, that clarity allows for simplified operations. It's all connected. I mean, let's talk Taylor Swift and brand clarity. I mean, each era is a different story, but it always comes back to her personal brand. It always comes back to her personal brand. And I mean, we can't forget that she truly is the mastermind of healthy boundaries. Even we talked about in the Olaplex episode, I talked about the Red Lobster's new CEO, who I'm obsessed with, getting on TikTok and saying, "Look, yeah, things aren't great. Things aren't great. And this is what we're gonna do about it." I mean, that's clarity and transparency in action. In action. Because when brands aren't clear, and again, doesn't matter if you're a global beauty brand or an independent stylist or any place you sit in this industry, when you drift, confusion creeps in, chaos creeps in, and that's where trust starts to erode. Clarity is absolutely our compass. The next kind of like big idea is simplicity. And I was so incredibly blessed to be raised up in my business, my business journey by a leader um, who was the master and still is the master of simplicity. We as humans tend to move towards complicating things. And, I'm not a licensed psychologist or all those things, but in my experience, we tend to complicate things. It's just the way our brain works for many different reasons. Um, so simplicity, it's this is why I say simple, not easy. You know, when we talked about in the Drybar episode, when we looked at no cuts, no color, just blowouts. I mean, that was so simple. And some people could be like, oh, well, that's dumb. It's just blow dries. Yeah. And it turned into a gazillion dollar, well, two gazillion dollar brands, right? The salons and the home care products and tools. So, I mean, yeah, again, we could talk about simplicity and how Trader Joe's approaches, their experience. They don't do delivery, they don't do self checkout, they didn't add coupons, they didn't do anything. They have stayed simple because they know who they serve and what matters to them, that in-store experience. And knowing that that in-store experience is actually their one of their biggest points of differences, right? The relationships we build with Trader Joe's crew members, no matter how sometimes uncomfortable they can be because they're so fucking friendly. Again, all part of the brand. You know, simplicity, talking about simplicity, Starbucks. I got to go back to Starbucks because they were simple at one time and then they create all this chaos and then sales drop and then they go back to simple. And I talked a lot about that in the Starbucks episode. And I also mentioned, I believe we talked about a few times in the In and Out episode and maybe the Starbucks episode, I shared the story of Southwest Airlines. We haven't done a deep dive on them yet, but trust me, they're on my list because I've been studying them for decades. Kind of the biggest lesson I learned from the Southwest story was that they were one of their brand promises is you are free to fly, move about the country. Their whole promise was to connect people, right? And air travel wasn't always accessible. And they came on the scene, and one of the ways they kept their prices down, um, and stayed operationally lean is because they chose only one type of aircraft. Now I could, say, I'm not saying choose one service. I'm not saying choose one shampoo. However, there's so much wisdom here because one type of aircraft simplifies training, simplifies inventory, simplifies operations. So simplicity allows for that high quality that's again aligned with your brand, that consistency, and let's be honest, your anxiety. Simple, not easy. Simple, not easy. But it's always something to think about. The next big lesson, which, this is going to be like, well, duh, Nina, the experience is the brand. Every touch point, every touch point. Because it's not about the haircut. It's not about the colors. It's not about the bottles of shampoo. At the end of the day, it's about how people feel. Because this is all emotional. This is an emotional connection. This is, again, why brand story is so important. When we understand our brand people, we understand what they value. And when we understand what they value, we show up for them and deliver that value every single day, online and off. And different brands, right? Different brands, different brand people. That's why one of the reasons comparison is such a, it's not good for business. I mean, it's bad for the heart, right? And the brain and the nervous system, but it's terrible for business. Terrible because we don't want all businesses making the same shit. Because if all businesses were making the same shit, if it was just bottles, shampoo, or haircuts or whatever, then it would be a price game. It would just, well, where can I get the cheapest one? They're all the same. There's no point of difference. So the brand is a story you wrap around whatever it is you're selling, whatever services or products. Because Starbucks isn't selling coffee, right? They've always been about belonging and community. Aveda wasn't selling shampoo. They were selling full sensory service rituals and experiences. Trader Joe's doesn't just sell, they're not, I mean, I like Trader Joe's food. Some people are like, oh, it's just a snack place. I don't think so, but it's not just food because you can get food anywhere. It's about the connection, right? It's about how we feel. And I shared that story in the Trader Joe's episode about how awesome the crew members have been to me. And you got to listen to that episode if you haven't. And even the Costco's chaotic warehouse vibe, right? It's part of the experience. The experience is the brand. Every touch point, every single thing, online and off. Um, you know, going back to, I mean, obviously this is all brand story lessons, but really knowing your brand people, really knowing your brand people. Now, I think I shared on probably a few of the episodes that I am not a big fan of traditional demographics. Like we serve women 18 to 24. I just think that's so old and like not the way the world is today, right? And so when I look at brand people, the questions are what do they value? What's important to them? What problems do they share? Because the most powerful storytelling, the most powerful marketing is when we're speaking to an audience of one. And by an audience of one, I mean shared, right? The shared value. So if I'm posting something on the Passion Squared Instagram page, this has happened so many times. And I also do those morning text messages for our clients and community, as I have for the last 11 years. Every day, a morning text message. And I'll get messages saying, how'd you know? Are you in my head? And I'm like, yeah, I am because I understand my brand and I'm speaking to an audience of one. So that is one of the reasons that really having a deep understanding of your people, of your brand people, is so important. Trader Joe's gets it. They don't want to be Whole Foods. In and Out doesn't have chicken sandwiches and breakfast burritos. You know, you don't need to be all things to everybody. You need to be the thing you promise to the people you serve. And that includes team members, whether you're a pro beauty brand, a salon owner, whether you're an employment based salon owner or a lease based salon owner, you have promises too to them, right? So it goes all the way down, really knowing those people. Uh, so I mean, there's so many. There's so, I took so I take so many notes for these episodes. But those are just a few of like the really kind of like some of the lessons that and the fundamentals that I talk about all the time and share with our clients and community. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, which one of those kind of is are you struggling with, or do you need support with, or which one of those have you mastered and you feel really confident? Which one of those are like, oh shit, I never even thought about that. Your feedback so far on these episodes has been my fuel. And I know I thank you every single episode, but since we're doing this celebration and recap, I really want to really, really say thank you. Uh, as I've shared in, I believe, most of the episodes, these are the conversations I have with myself. Um, and literally in my head, like, hey, I if I could pick up the phone and call a CEO, right? Or, obviously these are conversations I also have with our clients and community um, at Passion Square. But I think about these things. I take notes about them. I outline them. I go to ChatGPT and give ChatGPT all my thoughts and to help organize my thoughts. Sometimes, not all the time. Uh, but I put a lot of work into this, but like this is not work to me. This is like honestly the greatest privilege to have this platform and to have you all not only just like listening to these episodes, but actually like taking action on things that you've learned and sharing your feedback with me. Again, your feedback is my fuel. And I appreciate your generosity over these last 9 episodes because it's really, really helped me. So I want to continue to keep the door open for these conversations as we head into our next group of episodes. And if you have a brand that you want me to do a deep dive on, I would love to hear from you. There's a few actually. I not ironically, the two. Requests from the community episodes we've done so far were first Aveda and then Olaplex. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. Uh, but I definitely want to hear what brands you want to hear more about. I can't promise that I'll do the deep dive on them, but I am open to the suggestions. I still have such a long list. When I started imagining this podcast, I have such a long list of brands that I haven't even gotten to yet. The Because again, this is just me. This is what I do in my free time, besides, the animals and the documentaries and all the other shit I do. So, as we wrap up this episode, I hope that you are finding more clarity and you're seeing the pattern that I talk about every single time. Every brand we love or used to love or want to love again, it all comes back to the fundamentals. It all comes back to clarity, to consistency, and to really caring. Simple, not easy. As we close this episode again, I want to say thank you for listening. And I also want to share that my heart and prayers are with the people of Texas. I was offline for the weekend because I do consistent social breaks, as I recommend all of you do, and have been talking about that shit forever. And then to wake up, to log in Monday and to see what happened is just unfathomable. And in these times, I always go back to that Mr. Rogers uh, quote, look for the helpers. It's so difficult to navigate because our hearts and our brains and our nervous systems are not set up for this nonstop tragedy. So obviously offline time, but being of service, being of service is one of the most powerful things we can do every day, but even more so when we are just feeling so hopeless and just devastated. So look for the helpers and helping in the context of these things like the beautiful souls in Texas It could literally be like sharing a food bank, or, on your socials, or doing a local fundraiser in your business or salon, or whatever. There's so many ways to help. It's not always just like, oh, I don't have the money or time. Even. It takes 2 seconds to share a GoFundMe or to share a local fundraiser, or again, like I said, food bank, etc. So if you're in Texas, if you've been impacted in any way, I just want you to know you're in my heart and you're in my prayers. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And again, always remember to celebrate these steps, these milestones, these moments that you're like, you know what? I'm proud of myself. We need that. We need that so badly. I'm really proud of myself. Yay. Because that's going to give us more energy to take that next step, right? It's going to give us more courage, more confidence to take that next step. And that's all we need to do is just take that next step. So thank you so much for listening. It is truly an honor and privilege to create this for you. Have a peaceful day, everyone. Bye.